I believe we're going to see the exposure go to a new level of letting people know how evil the Satanists are and how their motive toward destruction. We are witnessing not economic decay, we're watching economic deconstruction. Let's say the West, the Western powers, US, UK, NATO, whatever, when the West decided to go after Gaza and permit the genocide, what they did was they blocked and made forbidden all Western ships to go through the Suez. And that's been enforced by the Houthis in Yemen, and that's all understood. Now, the West didn't shoot themselves in the foot. No, it's so much worse. They cut off both their own legs. Sad. There's no Western UK, no Western Europe. I call that NATO. There's no NATO, there's no British, and there's no American ships that's going through the Suez Canal. What they wanted to do, and this is why I'm convinced that the cabal will lose. They wanted it to go through the Ben Gurion Canal that's not even built yet. Okay, this is how out of kilter they are. They should have started the Ben Gurion Canal a while ago, but to do that, they needed a lot of money. They didn't have it. They didn't want to divert the narco money. They'd rather use the narco money to do the fake pandemic. I'm telling you, there's a lot of moving parts.
Oh, absolutely.
And I cover a lot of this in the newsletter on golden-jackass.com. I actually had special reports on the pandemic. There were probably about 7 or 8 of them back in 2020 and 2021. I still do special reports. I've had 2 special reports in a row now, Versan, regarding the cabal being exposed. That was June, and the election becoming a circus in July. This is a circus.
It is. It's a political puppet show. And if I may say, my channel got, not this one, I had another YouTube channel in 2021 at the height of the pandemic, and I was putting videos out there, and my channel got shut down. I got shut down, and now you can't, now you can talk about it. It's almost like it wasn't true back then, but it's true now.
Well,
that they tried to commit genocide, and
it's exposed.
It's very, it's very disgusting, and I can't believe people still drive around with a mask in their car. But anyways,
well,
it's their, can't fix stupid, right?
Badge of stupidity.
Yeah, you can't fix stupid.
No, you can't. Actually, I've done this. I haven't done it much lately because I haven't seen very many masks, but I've done this about 50 times here where I'm located. I asked them, "Excuse me, that's a very nice mask you have." Oh, it's only black. How can that be a nice mask? But sometimes it's got all kinds of colors, and little cartoon characters. And
I
say,
remember.
Oh, thank you.
I remember when people were wearing like Louis Vuitton and Gucci masks. I'm like, you idiot.
Okay, what I said to them was, "That's a really nice mask you have. Is that for ignorance, or is that for slavery?"
Oh, wow. Powerful. You're gonna make people angry by telling them the truth. I remember, the first 48 hours of the pandemic when it was announced to the world, I was the first person in the family that got up and said, "This is bullshit. I see what they're doing." And not one day since the pandemic started until today, not one day has changed for me as far as wearing a mask. I never wore a mask. When people tell me to put a mask on or get out, I'd get out. I always rebelled at 100%, never got vaccinated, warned people about it, ended up getting in trouble. Lost some friends and family, naturally. So my family was upset. They went in a different direction. It's very unfortunate. But it's so sad how the world changed just so much after the pandemic. And I think we're seeing a lot of those changes today. So we'll move on to the next topic, but it's just.
Can I make a quick story? Just
sure.
Regarding, I never call it the pandemic. I call it the fake pandemic.
The plandemic, right?
It was nothing more than a common cold. 99.7% recovery rate. Therefore, a global vaccine mandate. Yeah, right. Okay. it wasn't 5 days after Wuhan that I got emails, and they were a steady stream for about a week. They were my Chinese clients.
Mm-hmm.
Chinese client from Hong Kong, Chinese client from Singapore, Chinese client from Hong Kong again, then from Australia, then Los Angeles, then Vancouver. They all said the same thing. Jim, this is not a pandemic. This is not a virus. It's 5G. There are no incidents of the virus death outside the city limits of Wuhan. It is all inside the city. It's all 5G. And if this was a viral contagion, it would have spread out without limit, without border. This is 5G.
Sure.
I was schooled on that within 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was just bullshit. I'm sorry, all of that. And then there was some other stuff on top that tried to exemplify the situation and make it look like it's worse than it really was.
The fish market story. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. See, and that's just one, right? But it's just. Go ahead. You want to say something?
No, I had a couple of other notes that I didn't get to, but that's okay.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Another thing about military weapons. I mean, this is a very big topic for me. They want to sustain military sales, weapon sales. When they did the Arab oil embargo, they quadrupled the price of oil. And the Arabs were not the authors of that idea. It was Kissinger. It was a Rockefeller concept. They told the Saudis, whatever you do, everybody will follow. So we want you to go along with the 4 times the quadrupled oil price, but we're going to help you to manage it. We want you to recycle your surplus back into treasury bonds. We're going to hold 1/4 of your treasury bond. That's the Exchange Stabilization Fund. And we want you to buy military hardware. Don't worry. We will guarantee Middle East instability.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all the OPEC nations in the Gulf nation, the Gulf monarchies. They're all coerced to buy military weapons from the United States. And so is Israel. But Israel doesn't buy them. We give them.
Yeah.
I tell you.
I mean, it's a really complex situation. It's very detailed. And like you said, there's just so many damn moving parts. Everybody's a hypocrite. They're both bought off to some degree.
And here's another moving part. All that instability created Arab refugees. Well, ship them to Europe.
Yes. And anger and hatred towards people who are just want to live in peace, to be honest.
Yeah, but there are a lot of criminals that.
Of course there are criminals. Yeah, absolutely. But they've been
elected. It wasn't just part of the mix. No. The criminals were tossed in there.
Yes, and not only that, they were also there was a lot of propaganda behind a lot of this stuff. Has twisted people to believe in certain things. And anyways, whole different subject. I mean, their MK Ultra programming is pretty damn intense, and I know exactly. Okay, so it's just incredible how deeply the globalists seem to have how they thought this out. They thought it very carefully, and it's been orchestrated meticulously. And trying not to dive too deep into the rabbit hole, I believe that behind a lot of this war too, there is a spiritual aspect to all of us, a spiritual warfare behind even this currency crisis and everything else that's along with it. In my private conversations with friends and family, on and off record, I keep warning people and them that, just things are just going to keep getting stranger and very unsettling over the next 3 years. I mean, the sad thing is a lot of the malevolence is being solidified, in my opinion, through quantum computers, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, which I think are going to become the gatekeepers to all the devices, therefore controlling every aspect of our lives and information we access, because we are all
but also providing us liberty at the same time.
I hope so.
I mean, that's kind of like saying, well, my gosh, DARPA created email, so email's evil. The cryptos are not going to be the gateway of global control. They're going to be the gateway of global independence from the cabal.
You don't think that they could co-opt these systems?
No. I'm sorry. BRICS is creating payment systems on the blockchain out of Shanghai, the blockchain. And it's not going to be possible to do weaponization of currency. They're going to work around the dollar, and they're going to create an independent world. The BRICS are right now trying to put some controls over the Chinese. I don't know if you noticed, but in the August Durban, South Africa BRICS meeting, they blocked President Xi from making a speech. They put his entire entourage of 15 security officers in a hotel so they could not make a BRICS conference speech about credit scoring for banking that was so wonderful from China that they wanted to be across all of BRICS. No. The digital highway, the blockchain ledger, is going to be part of independence for people. Independence.
So I know blockchain can provide. Yeah, blockchain can certainly provide a lot of.
They're not going to have the CBDC as a weapon against the people. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
It's gone too big, too powerful, basically.
No, it's gone under Eastern control. Eastern control. Russia has pretty much a CBDC. The Russian ruble digital. China has a digital yuan. These are CBDCs. Who runs the digital ruble for Russia but their central bank? They've already got a legitimate, good, integrity-filled CBDC in their digital ruble.
Right.
We're not going to get the global prison because of instituting crypto.
Too many people also are waking up, I believe, and that's something I did.
The East is in control. The unit for the BRICS, it's going to be with MBridge as a protocol.
Project MBridge.
The digital, the blockchain ledger. And all they have to do now is declare what are the buses and what are the trucks going to be. And I think they're going to have a label on the side that says XRP.
Yes, that's the last topic I was going to discuss with you. But I am still curious to know your thoughts on who is truly running the show these days as far as orchestrating a lot of the psychological warfare that's coming out, because many people in the space, they continue to talk about a great awakening. And it's true that a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are discovering how these globalists have been exposed. Absolutely. While that's true, my question is simple, and it's what are people waking up to? Because I've been asking these questions for over a decade. I didn't talk about it before, but I always knew and I sensed certain things were wrong. So I'm concerned, like, people are just waking up, first of all. And, I couldn't fully articulate it once back then, but as people are waking up today, I personally, having lived on the other side of the world as well and having a general understanding, and I was raised to question things at such a young age, I noticed way more lies actually being perpetuated within the Great Awakening as well. So I'm concerned, going now without going into too much scripture, that it seems like people are waking up to a false sense of liberty. And I'm just speculating here, right? I always think on both sides. So what are your thoughts on what I just said? People talk about White Hat Alliance, but yet there are things in there that still don't make sense. I don't want to talk about it up here, but
who is in control? Well, there are two bodies at work: the Cabal and the White Alliance. The Cabal, they control medicine, they control big tech like search engines and social networks, but not all of them. They control weapons, they control the vaccines, they control the news. I'm repeating myself a little bit, but so be it.
Okay.
They control a lot of different things, the wars. Okay, that's a Cabal activity. And there's a theme to it: death and destruction and lost liberty. Okay, it's all three, and they overlap. But there's another exposure going on, and it's exposure of the evil. And I just say, what is being exposed? It's the Satanists and all of their nefarious activities. I wrote them down. It's the medical sector, the pharmaceuticals, and the vaccine. It's all the wars and the constant budget for weapons. It's the MSM news and the censorship of social networks and search engines. It's lesbian, gay, and diversity equity. It's the open border invasion. Okay, we're getting exposed to the nefarious motives for all of that. And when they're doing all that, they're also producing a lot of price inflation so that they have economic damage.
Of course.
Now, I believe
Yeah.
Let me, final point. I believe what we're seeing now is the exposure of Satan.
The devil, like spiritual warfare. That's correct. Evil.
And the White Alliance is predominantly, God-fearing and mostly from the United States Christian. And there is a Jewish element to that, but it's mostly Christian. We're seeing a global war of good versus evil. And notice that Russia is a Christian nation.
Yes, it is.
They've got a Christian government. They got a lot of problems with their legal system and their court system and all that, their law structure. They got a lot of problems. They need a lot of progress. But their government is Christian.
Yeah, they're religious, and they take it very dearly to them.
And it's Eastern Orthodox, Russian Orthodox. And they've got a patriarch, Cyril, Ciril. And what does the West have? We've got the Satanist Vatican.
That's right.
Okay, so, even on the religious side, the official, hierarchical of Cyril versus the Pope, it's again Satan versus God. I got a quick side story regarding the Russian Orthodox Church, and I got this confirmed by one of my sources who had to go quiet because they were being hunted down. He had to stay alive and stay safe. When the Bolsheviks took over in, I think, 1907, 1905, the Bolsheviks took over, and they call them the White Russians, the Russians who were opposed to communism. They worked with the church, the Russian Orthodox Church, and they hid in something like 2,000 churches.
Wow.
They hid 120,000 tons of gold.
That's incredible.
They hid about 14 times as much gold as Fort Knox. 14 Fort Knoxes, and it's in 2 Russian military mountain location bases. So many of us have heard, not all, but people who pay attention and study this stuff, under the Kremlin, they have 25,000 tons of gold. Right. So now they have 145,000 tons of gold, official gold. You think they're ready for a gold standard and a gold monetary banking system? I can't wait. And that's one reason the United States declares them to be a rogue state. They're not only Christian, they're in favor of a gold standard. Okay, I believe Trump has confiscated a lot of elite criminal and royal wealth in the trillions. And I believe Trump has also, not the word's not confiscate, recovered.
Okay.
And had not so much donated, but devoted. Trump is now the executor of perhaps 100,000 tons of gold. And to put a perspective on this, 10,000 tons of gold is roughly $1 trillion. Mm-hmm. Roughly. Not exact. I don't care to be exact. I'm talking rough. I'm talking napkin math. So sure. If we need to cover, say, $34 trillion, we need 340,000 tons of gold. What I think we're going to see is foreigners are going to get a haircut on bond redemption because they were just too stupid to buy them and keep them. Mm. Now, we coerced it, but, they didn't resist. They didn't fight back. And U.S. institutions, treasury bondholders, just think of banks, pension funds, insurance companies, and corporate financial firms like wealth management funds. They own a lot of treasury bonds. Yeah. And they're going to get gold. That's what I think. They're going to get gold. They're going to be redeemed for their treasury bonds in gold. We talk about a default being inevitable, Versan. What we might get is a redemption instead. Right.
For that default. Instead of defaulting, we get redemption. And a new gold standard.
It's not a default if it's a redemption. It's not.
That's correct.
It's not a redemption in the form of a default. or other way around, not a default in the form of redemption. Okay, we're going to have a lot of surprises coming. And
oh yeah, like I said, next 3 years is going to be very interesting and very strange. A lot of changes are coming. So I know many technologies are building this infrastructure. We talked about this a little bit earlier for the new monetary system, the digitization of everything. People know what XRP is. I'm personally a big investor in XRP, Ripple, and Stellar XLM. Last time we did speak, you mentioned it would be like having your Coke and Diet Coke in a multipolar world, which really makes sense. So for our new audiences and listeners who are just beginning to understand these technologies, is there any way you could just please expand on what you meant by that comparison? Additionally, maybe even elaborate on the technologies and what it really means to the new monetary system.
Reword the question. What's going on with XRP and why am I so optimistic about it?
Yeah.
It was June. They had the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. And what we're seeing now in the last 2 years is that it's eclipsing the Davos Economic Forum. They call that the World Economic Forum. I call it the banker barbecue. Okay. Davos is a banker barbecue. There are no economic business deals. There were 23 international business deals in St. Petersburg worth $70 billion. That is an economic conference. When they had the St. Petersburg June meeting, they said, we want this to be the BRICS conference. We will allow BRICS to dominate the themes, and we're going to have other things in addition to BRICS, but come one, come all. And the United States largely did not attend. What they did, I paid close attention to what they were going to do regarding trade payment technology and systems. And what I learned, it's all well and good to say they had 23 different countries involved in $70 billion worth of contracts. But I got news for the United States. None of it will be dollar settled. Not any of those 70 billion in contracts will be dollar settled. So I paid attention to what they were going to do regarding, because they had pretty much hinted we cannot make a BRICS gold token. We're not going to have a gold utility token. And believe me, that is all about liberty, not slavery. They said we're not going to do 100% gold token. We've been working with all the various countries and we got a compromise. And for lack of a better name, we're going to call it the unit. Okay, it's the BRICS unit. I don't care what they call it. I just want them to call it something and to get some meat on them bones, They said that it's going to be 40% gold, and then the two nations will each have 30% of their choosing for the currencies. It could be, France versus India, could be rupee and the euro. But India has let it be known that they're not typically going to use the rupee, and the reason is kind of embarrassing. No one wants it. Okay. So
sorry, that's funny.
The two countries are going to determine the 30% and the 30%, and gold will be the 40%. And then I studied, okay, what about the rules? The rules. Okay, you can't have travel on a highway without rules. Think of it as speed limit, can't change the lane. Here's the off ramp, and you need certain licensing in order to have your truck operate. Okay, the rules.
The protocol.
I was going to say the exact word. They established the protocol in St. Petersburg, and they called it MBridge. Little M, big B, MBridge. And I've listened to a few videos to get a lot of schooling on this, and I've done my best. And there's always more that I can do. And I have a lot of things I need to cover, Versan, and I do the best I can. All right. So what I learned was there are three themes regarding MBridge that set up all the rules for its usage. It's got to be fast, it's got to be cheap, and it's got to be free from interference, because a lot of this is developed because of the dollar weaponization. Right. This is about freedom from fascist bankers. All right, now it's all great. You got the protocol. This is wonderful. What are the trucks and what are the buses? Who's going to carry the cargo? Think of them as giant trucks, mostly truck. Because a bus, people think of people, and a truck, you think of cargo.
Right.
What is going to carry the cargo? What are the trucks going to be? And they've done everything except to tell us what the vehicle will be that conforms to the MBridge protocol and satisfies all the requirements for the unit. And the answer is XRP and a couple of others, but I think it's going to be dominated by XRP because XRP is being advertised and promoted as a high-level, high-volume trade settlement mechanism. And then we had the news, and it's coming out one by one in a parade. Russia has announced that XRP is a valid intermediary between their corporate, their bank, their government, and the three currencies, the euro, the dollar, and the, I think, yuan, I think. No, the euro, the dollar, and the yuan, I think. I'm not sure. Three currencies. All right, so XRP is an intermediary in Russia, and they're going to conform. And they said they just passed a law in Russia that crypto can be used for trade payment settlement in Russian trade. That's anti-dollar. That means, hey, Bulgaria, Poland, and maybe even France, you want to break the sanctions? You're going to have to pay us with a crypto device. And, you don't want to use a dollar because you get bombed by the Americans? Okay, fine. Use XRP. Okay. Then you had Brazil announced they're going to have XRP collaboration with investment communities and software developers. And I got some of this covered in my newsletter for June and July. I can't remember which. Sign up, read them both. Then you got India said, we have an energy deal with the Gulf, and part of the payment will be in XRP. It finally happened. Because India is really interesting. Really interesting because they're so big. They got the largest middle class in the world, our world, and they got a currency that people don't like. As a result, they're going to be looking for alternatives, and crypto is at the head of their list. They did a deal over a year ago, and I highlighted this because it was UAE. Sorry. UAE did a deal with I'm getting off track a little bit, but it's still a very interesting story. I got confused in my own head, but I figured it out. UAE did a big energy deal with France, and they took as payment yuan. UAE took yuan from France. So France didn't use the dollar. We're getting precedents all over the place. And before you know it, UAE is going to say, yuan is good, but XRP is better. And I did a consult call a year and a quarter ago, and it was from a guy in Oman. And he was British educated, but his name was Ahmad, and he was Arab, and he had perfect English like you. And he told me all about how XRP is being used in the Gulf area, the Gulf region.
Already.
Yeah. Widely used, but at a lower level. He said every several months they move it up a level, and it's used a little more widely with higher volume. And he gave me one example of a construction firm with a cement contractor paid in XRP. Okay, this is happening. I think XRP is going to have quantum jumps. And, some people need to understand some details that are very significant. It's got what they call on-demand liquidity. So if suddenly XRP has oh my gosh, we're not ready for that. It's too big. Oh, no. It's XRP, on-demand liquidity. It gets created. Think of it like a virtual memory. And I came from Digital Equipment Corporation from 1980 to 1992, and they had virtual memory. So if you had a big block and you needed to move it, it created virtual memory to carry out instructions, and it was a very flexible system. XRP is like virtual crypto. It can be as big as you need. And
it's like digital gold as well.
I think it's going to be gold backed. And
I do too. I still agree with you. If I can share something real quick.
Go ahead.
See, I really believe, and this is what I teach on the channel, is that everything is really falling into place. Interestingly, Ripple has already been recognized by the World Gold Council to launch a stablecoin on the XRP ledger to integrating physical assets, commodities into the digital economy, utilizing XRP as a value transfer mechanism. And another thing I'd like to add is those who understand the technology understand that XRP isn't just any regulated currency out there. It has the potential to act as a global cross-border settlement mechanism, reserve mechanism, very similar to how the dollar operates. Now, if the dollar's gone and liquidity in the dollar is plunging, you need a substitute.
You mentioned some key words, and I wrote them down. A value transfer asset. Now, Ripple Tech, they won 2 lawsuits with the SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. They were very important victories. And I believe, I'm going to oversimplify it, but in the 2 victories, it was determined XRP is not a security. It's not a stock or bond. And in the other case, it's not a currency. It's not a stock, it's not a bond, it's not a currency. It's a value transfer mechanism. And it operates within the protocol developed by the BRICS called MBridge. It conforms.
Yeah, it's interoperable with it, basically.
Yeah, I don't know all the particular details. You seem to know a little bit more about it than I do in key areas, and that's great, because I learn whenever I talk to people who are smarter than me in certain areas. We're going to see XRP among others. We may see that Stellar will declare that we're now MBridge compliant. So we want a piece of the action for the unit and payment system within BRICS. And what I think is going to probably happen is XLM will be a lot more in its domestic payment satisfaction. In, say, Saudi Arabia or in Iran, there could be a big project, and it could be cement contractors and steel contractors and, drywall workers, the labor, and, glass and window and the carpenters. And before you know it, 2 or 3 of those groups are saying, well, we get paid in XLM. We're all kind of domestic, and they're not huge contracts, so we don't need XRP. But then you got country-to-country trade settlement, bilateral, quarterly, or monthly net trade payment. That is where XRP is going to come in. And what I'm expecting, Versan, is that we're going to have 3, 4, 5 different quantum jumps. It's not going to go.
Are you talking about the price?
It's not going to go 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. It's going to go 50, 60, 70, $2.80. And then $2.90, $3, $3.50, $7.80. Then $8, $8.50, $8.20, then $26. Discontinuous price movement. One really smart client, he said, Jim, I got news for you. XRP is going to suddenly move to something like 30 or 50.
Yeah. I can easily see that. It was designed for infinite scalability.
And that goes hand in hand with the on-demand liquidity. Infinite scalability.
That's right.
It means that any country can come to the table and say, well, we don't know what we want to use, but we can't use the dollar. We don't want to use the yuan. Okay, China is going to be discouraging usage of the yuan in trade settlement as a third party. Now, when UAE took yuan from France, China said, "Oh, that's okay, but you can't do that. Can't do that for the next several years. You got to develop the alternative."
And we're here now.
And that is going to work very significantly toward XRP and XLM. I know some people are really
there's
smart.
A lot of other technologies out there.
Well, I wish I couldn't really tell you the big difference between XLM and XRP. I couldn't tell you. I know they do the same function, but it seems like XLM is more, it's not international. It's more domestic. And that's very simplified.
Yeah, it could do some cross-border payments, but it's more for micro, individual level. Their main, peer-to-peer. Their objective is banking the unbanked. XRP was more for institutional use, big money.
And have you heard?
Correct.
You probably heard it, but I'm just going to say it for the giggle. XRP is mentioned for interplanetary trade.
That's a whole different rabbit hole I'm not ready to go down.
I just mentioned it for the giggle. I like to giggle. I laugh a lot. In my private life,
So do
I
I,
laugh a
yeah.
lot. It's very therapeutic. Can I give you my prediction? Are you ready for?
Sure, please. Yes, thank you, Jim.
Okay, because I need to close this.
Of course, yeah. We're already almost 2 hours.
Yeah, we're having too much fun.
I enjoyed this.
I believe we're going to see the exposure go to a new level of letting people know how evil the Satanists are and how their motive toward destruction. We are witnessing not economic decay. We're watching economic deconstruction. They're not just letting things fall apart with higher prices. They're bringing higher prices to deconstruct the small business sector, to deconstruct the individual home ownership. So they give it up and it goes to BlackRock private equity firm. Okay, we're getting exposure of the medical sector, the war sector, the news and big information sector, the society policies. We're getting exposure. We're learning that the United States is not 18% lesbian gay. It's not even 2. Okay? We're being gaslighted and fed bullshit by the plateful. When I talk to somebody who's a bit of a knucklehead, I say, is there any plate full of bullshit that you do not swallow whole? Okay? Now, remember, my dad was a literature professor. Okay, right. We're going to be exposed on the border and the sleeper cells. We're going to be exposed on what the real price inflation problem is. And you know, one little thing we're going to be exposed on is, you know, there's a consequence of having low interest rates in order to manage the U.S. government debt. And it meant that pension funds and insurance firms are in trouble because their nut doesn't earn much income. And that's why insurance rates are going up. The premiums are going up, double, triple, and more. And the pensions are getting cut back on the payouts. They're saying, well, you know, you got 2 choices. You could take 60% of what was planned, or you can just drop out. So it's a screw you. Okay, it's because the treasury bonds have not earned sufficient bond yield. I believe we're watching largely a controlled destruction of the Democrat Party that was taken over by the New World Order fascists. We have an unholy alliance of narcos, Marxists like Obama, and the fascist from the New World Order Geneva. Let's just call it the Geneva crowd. That includes Davos. So Marxists, narcos, and fascists. And they join together.
Combination.
It's deadly. And we saw it with the vaccine, the censorship, and we saw it with the election fraud. And what do they have for their war chest but a few $1 trillion from narco money laundering, narco. You know, I get criticized. People say, why you talk about narco now and again? I say, because how can you ignore an 800 billion per year industry that feeds the underworld into the banks to control the takeover of the United States? If that's the war chest for doing bribery of our military, our bankers, and our judges and our politicians, why do you want to ignore it? Are you stupid or are you blind? Which one?
Yeah, both.
Okay, we're seeing a controlled revelation and conversion. And at the same time, the Democrat Party, I think, might possibly be destroyed. And the climax is November. And the good news, from my perspective, is if we get more assassination attempts and it becomes a little more apparent to even the dumbest people in the room that the FBI is behind it, then we might see a Supreme Court ruling that awards Trump the presidency at roughly the time of the election, which is canceled.
Yes. Interesting.
And Trump would be given his second term that was stolen from him.
Yeah.
The Congress is trying to pack the Supreme Court by going from 9 to 15 justices and all the 6 new ones would be Democrat liberal types. Oh my gosh. Are you aware that in the recent decisions from the Supreme Court, on more than one occasion, the 3 liberals have recused themselves? They've stepped back. Wow. The liberals don't vote no more. Oh my gosh, the liberals don't vote no more. Oh, I love that. And why? Because they come up with weird reason of what they call it recuse. We're withdrawing. We recuse from making a decision, making a ruling on a vote on the decision. Okay, we're seeing they're not going to win. They're not going to. It's not going to happen. No. Not going to happen. I believe most of the Congress has been under control now, and most, if not all, of the executive orders are going to be rescinded. We're watching a show, and I believe that firmly. And I think the show is coming to an end. And I expect a lot of the Biden show officials to scatter like cockroaches when you turn the light on. And they're going to hide in Ukraine and Israel. I appealed to Rob Kirby in 2012, and I said, look, I don't really understand too much about these derivatives. I think I understand the petrodollar, but what exactly is the interest rate swap derivative? What they now call it the bond derivative. The bond, it's an interest rate swap. And he taught me, and I had to expand. I had to move into that area. I learned more. Oh my gosh. In 2017, 18, I made a real big project out about learning crypto and smart contracts and the ledger and mining. Are you aware, Versan, that 10% of all electricity demand now is from mining and AI queries?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to require a lot of power. Hopefully we can see some new technologies.
We need not only new technologies, we need lower prices.
I think we can really skip the whole electric thing. Maybe just get on to what they're hiding up there.
I'd like to have an electricity source straight out of my lawn. And
I'd like to see some 0-point energy through gravitational fields and gyroscopes, and well, who knows, right? Make energy free.
I think we're going to see giant complexes of like 20 or 30 Tesla coils, and that'll power like a quarter of a city.
Wow.
Or you have a small pack and it'll power like a condominium complex with 20-story buildings. This is where
there's a lot of, that's where we should head. We'll see.
I've had 3 clients who've seen demos of the Tesla Clip. It turns 500 watts. It turns 500 watts to 50,000.
Wow. New technologies will be emerging after all this mess. So
we've been
3 to 5 years.
We've been treated like, farm animals. Yeah. And now with the vaccine, it got out in the open how they wanted to make us farm animals. I don't have anybody in my family vaccinated except my mother-in-law, who had 8 strokes.
I'm so sorry. When people think they're right because of the programming, and now it's sad like that. Some people who know the facts, they just want the whole world to burn because they don't want to go down by themselves. It's a psychological warfare on the people.
You're bringing up a very important topic, and I want to just close with something.
Sure.
And it's a thought. The denial for people who took the vaccine and boosters, it's as powerful as alcoholism.
Yeah,
and drug addiction. I think it could be worse because, alcoholism is life and death sometimes too, and
I agree.
so's narcotic addiction. I noticed the behavior. I'm not bashful about this. In 1987, which was 37 years ago, I went through drug rehab. 1987. I was a young fellow, and I realized I got a lot of my life ahead. It was not narcotics. I never had narcotics. Never. What I had was marijuana. And I went all the way up the scale, and I stopped at Hawaiian Kona. And I loved it, but it destroyed a lot of my life. What I've noticed is that everything I learned about treating the addiction and dealing with the denial. I'm seeing it with the vaccine. I'm seeing it with the people. Oh, you know, it would have been a lot worse if I hadn't. Okay, that's your rationalization. Okay, it's all parallel, and you know, you're bringing up a point. Well, then they drug addicts want everybody to be a drug addict so they can die with company. Yeah, that's it's in there, but
it's in there. Yeah, it's a psychological thing.
I've seen a lot of different denial mechanisms, and I see it now. By the way, I have a good friend, and his mother was vaxxed and heart attack. His stepmother vaxxed and heart attack. His wife's father, what's that? Father-in-law, vaxxed and heart attack. His brother-in-law, vaxxed and heart attack. His sister-in-law, vaxxed and heart attack. He's got 4 dead people. 4 dead people. His mother and stepmother are alive, but they're not able to move around. Like one of them had surgery, you know, heart surgery. We're not talking about enlarged hearts. We're talking about clots and heart attacks.
Right, which shouldn't happen in the first place.
No,
but
clot shot. Yeah.
That's what really what it is.
I told her like 5, 6, 7 times.
Turns you into rubber.
I thought I was a nuisance, Versan.
No.
And then we learned when she collapsed and blood coming out of her nose. Oh no, you got vaxxed. Yeah, I didn't want to tell you. 8 strokes. She's now vomiting blood.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, Dr. Jim.
This is sad.
It is sad, and maybe they weren't informed. You know, there's always time and opportunity to change that.
We can always give them a break and say they weren't well informed.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is they told all the studious people that they were idiots. Yeah. And they conformed to for their job requirements where we sought different job opportunities. We're lucky we have online. I tell you, during the lockdown, I had a big expansion of my client base.
I made a fortune in the, well, not fortune, but I made a lot of money in the pandemic years. I was also an essential business, so I got to stay open. I did contracts for the police department as well when I had my phone shop. I just sold all that stuff a year ago, successfully got right into crypto and a lot of other stuff. So, final words of wisdom from Dr. Jim Willie.
Be careful with your bank account. It might, if it's large, I don't think you're going to lose your bank account, but I think it's going to be rationed for your withdrawals. So you might want to get your money out as fast as you can from the big banks. Bank of America has pretty much given a pre-warning of their failure. That's been my very pick for a bank failure in the United States for over a year. They just gave a pre-warning in very strange language, very strange wording to their clients to be careful, and they're saying, get your money out of our bank. They can't say that, but that's what they're hinting. I like silver. Gold is good. If they give you a discount for silver like they have now, it's gone from 30 to 27 something, take it and laugh and thank them. Don't bellyache that your silver that you're holding is worth less, because you're not ready to sell. You're ready to buy. There are some people who are hurting because they're in their pension years, their older years, and they need to sell a couple of gold coins every month. I understand that. I sympathize. Try to hang on. See if you can borrow money against your gold, and like 3/4 of your gold, because we're going to. Here's just a final zinger. The central banks are all in trouble, and they're accumulating gold. And I've learned their bookkeeping technique. They're pretty soon now, they're getting close to doubling the gold price overnight. We're getting close to that, and I've learned their bookkeeping, accounting technique. It's called the gold revaluation account, and they call it a debit. They're calling their gold a debit. So when they flip that over to the asset side, it's to keep their balance sheet down, because they don't want you to know how much gold they're buying in their gold revaluation account. All right, I talk about this and a lot of other things, all these different things in more detail, and you can read about it in the hat trick letter, which is found on golden-jackass.com. And if you're very wealthy and you want to support my work, there's a sponsor button. I got a donate button with no PayPal on it. I do consult calls, and I'm available for the next 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So thanks for having me on, and good luck to you. And I'm glad to hear you profited during the lockdown, because a lot of people got wrecked.
I know it's unfortunate, but Jim, Dr. Jim, we're going to have you on again, and thank you so much. And I want to thank the audience too for being patient and listening through the whole thing. Lots of wisdom here. Please check out Dr. Jim Willie. Links in the description below. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day.